Let me begin with a truth that isn't easy to swallow. If you're an empath, you've been trained to be so kind that you've lost your backbone. In these 10 seconds, I want to give back what was stolen from you, the right to say no without trembling. Picture a dark room. The laughter of a narcissist cracks the air like shattered glass, while you stand there like a sponge, soaking up the shards so others won't bleed. You thought you were healing. In truth, you were disappearing. Jung whispers what is repressed does not die, and it sinks into the shadow, and there it waits for your return. You grew up in a culture of be nice, praised for your patience, your empathy, your ability to endure. You wore a smiling mask until your skin forgot how it felt to be bare. Then one day those cold, slippery eyes, self-centered, hollow, walk into your life. They project their night onto the walls, and you, out of love, out of fear, out of hope, press your face against that wall as if it were the sky. Gaslighting makes you doubt your memory, your intuition, even the trembling truth of your own body. Jung called this negredo, the black stage of alchemy. The old structure crumbles not because you are broken, but because the base is falling away. Listen closely, chaos is not failure, it is the signal of a birth. If your heart is pounding as you hear these words, know this: there is nothing wrong with your sensitivity. That sensitivity is the eye of the soul. It only needs a guardian, a calm logos, a clear boundary, a figure within you who knows how to hold the key and stand at the gate. Jung called this ally your animus. Not a tyrant, but a voice that is slow, precise, clean like a still lake at dawn. When you withdraw your projections, you do not grow cold, you grow exact. When you return the black package to its owner, you are not taking revenge, you are restoring justice to your soul. And then something miraculous happens. The anger you once feared rises as a gentle warrior. The desire you once felt ashamed of becomes a vow. Your compassion grows teeth. It no longer allows others to bite into your heart. When we talk about the empath and the narcissist, I don't begin with morality. I begin with the architecture of the soul. Each of us steps into life wearing a social mask, what Jung called the persona, polished with lessons like be nice, be helpful, be agreeable. For the empath, this mask shines even brighter. You read the atmosphere like a bird sensing a storm. You adjust your voice, your smile, even your heartbeat so no one feels discomfort. But what gets left behind that mask? Anger that never had permission to speak. Desires that were labeled selfish. Intuition that has been gaslit until it grew weary. These do not disappear, they sink into the shadow. And then on the stage of your life enters an inflated ego, someone who knows only themselves. They see your light and immediately hang their dark cloaks on the coat rack of your soul. You think you are being a generous host. In truth, you have opened the door to another person's night. At work, it happens subtly. You're the one handed every urgent task because you're so quick and efficient. The meeting drags on. The boss smiles kindly. Who can take responsibility for this report? All eyes slide toward you as if the answer were already decided. You say, sure, before your heart even asks, do I really want this? Each time the persona, the reliable mask, receives applause, while beneath it the shadow, the longing for fairness, gets silenced for another day. At home, your partner sighs. Why are you so sensitive when you simply set a boundary? At the Thanksgiving table, a relative makes a crude joke that cuts into your old wound and you laugh it off so you don't ruin the mood. Each polite smile whispers inside, maybe I'm just overreacting. That's the moment you abandon yourself. The narcissist doesn't have to shout. They only need you to doubt your own feelings. Jung called this the moment of slipping, when the persona fits so tightly you mistake it for your own skin, and the inner voice becomes a faint, wandering echo. The narcissist thrives on projection. They hang their shadows on you. You're weak, you're crazy, you're too sensitive, and strangely, you carry those signs as if they were evidence against yourself. Why? Because the empath fears most of all to hurt others and so sacrifices their own truth. Negredo, the black face, is not a sentence. It's the door no one wants to open. When an empath has orbited a narcissist long enough, the old structure starts to fall apart. The I'm fine lines crack like expired paint. The polite smile slips off like a mask that's lost its glue. At night, you lie still and hear a small sound like cold ash whispering, I think I'm gone. Jung would invite you not to run from that darkness. He called it the raw material of transformation. The night is not a prison. It's an incubator, where a new form gestates from what was discarded. The hardest task here isn't endurance, it's honesty. What in me is a borrowed? Where did I swap compassion for doing someone else's emotional labor? And when my body trembles, is it protecting me or asking permission from someone invisible? Signs of Negredo rarely arrive with fanfare. They slip in through everyday life. At the office, you open Slack and a message drops sweet as sugar, but heavy as lead. You're the only one I trust. Can you help me lock the draft before 6? It's 5:12 p.m. Your stomach tightens, but your fingers still type. Sure, on the way home, Seattle rain or LA traffic, it doesn't matter. You realize you've signed another invisible contract trading someone else's peace for your own life force. Later, your phone lights up at midnight. I need you now. You stand up, take the call, listen to the storm, and by morning you are empty. The reflex to keep the peace has learned so well you mistake it for kindness. That's how Negredo arrives, not loud, just the felt sense that your life has slipped off its axis. Inside that dark, the body becomes the most honest book. Your shoulders lift and won't lower. Breath skims the upper chest. Your gut knots at the ping of their name. Empaths blame themselves for being too sensitive, but sensitivity is the soul's sense organ. If you listen, your body is writing in invisible ink. This is a violated boundary. When the nervous system is stuck in submit to survive patterns, appear instant yeses apologizing for what you didn't do, over-explaining, shrinking your needs. It's okay if you see this late is on time for the soul. Active imagination is the small lamp you carry into the night. No elaborate ritual, a corner of a desk, a candle, a 10-12-minute timer. Close your eyes. Invite the forbidden part to step forward, maybe anger, maybe desire, maybe the exhaustion that's been mocked. Ask it, what good do you want for me? Don't argue. Write verbatim. One woman's anger arrived as a 15-year-old girl, arms crossed at a doorway. I won't let anyone in unless they knock. That line became a real-life boundary ritual before each call. She asks, are they knocking or barging in? When the banished part is heard, it stops sabotaging. Anger quits exploding and stands guard. Desire stops dragging you and becomes a directed commitment. Fatigue quits being shameful and teaches rest as a sacred duty. A tiny, very American example at Whole Foods, you're picking almond milk when a familiar, finely sharpened critic appears. You look tired lately, probably your diet. Before you'd smirk, nod, and add it to your inner blame list. Today, under bright lights and organic greens, you breathe into your belly and say slowly, I'm not available for comments about my body. I'm going to keep shopping. No debate, no lecture. Active imagination gave you a clean sentence like placing a small stone exactly where it changes the stream. Negredo is also the time to return the energy bundles that aren't yours. Try a light but potent ritual. Sit upright, inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6. Imagine a dark tangled skein at your chest. Whisper, I return to you what is yours. I receive back what is mine. You are not cursing, you're dissolving a contract. Do this before you answer the hard text, before the meeting with the manipulator, before dinner with the uncle who jokes. Then write one sentence in your journal. This time I will do less than I'm compelled to. Each less is a piece of ice, melting, clearing the path for the new form. In this community, connection is medicine. Try one small act, comment with 3 Negredo signals. You are noticing this week, 1 in the body, 1 in a daily moment, and 1 practice you want to try. Dream noting, force 6, breathing a boundary sentence. Drop to welcome someone new, or for anyone who just found a truthful line. When we share very small stories, the midnight text, the supermarket jib, the sugar-coated compliment at work, we strip the darkness of its power because it thrives when we're silent, isolated, and ashamed. The delicacy of the black phase is the threshold between despair and clue. If one morning you can do only this hand on chest, I'm here, that's enough to give the day a new center. Don't rush to become a positive version of yourself. Become present. From presence, small motions grow slower. Replies, a postponed meeting, stepping out of a needless fight water. Sunlight, a short walk. These gestures create a new axis, and in time that axis changes the orbit of your relationships. The narcissist finds you less useful. The kind are surprised to respect you more. You're not colder, you're becoming contoured. And then somewhere in the not yet dissolved dark, you hear a faint sound like metal softly touching in a kitchen that's inner logos clear and calm. Catch it before it fades. It's the gate to the next stretch. After the darkness has settled like ink in water, what the alchemist called negredo, there comes a moment of stillness so quiet you can almost hear an inner hinge turning. A hidden door begins to open. And here the journey shifts. We begin the work of withdrawing projections and calling back the animus. Projection is the soul's ancient reflex. Whatever I cannot bear within myself, I place onto you. And those who are deeply empathic, trained to read the room too well, often accept these projections as if they were true. But this moment is not about revenge. It is about restoring order. Gently, firmly, we return what does not belong to us. You can start with a simple practice. Imagine the wall in front of you as a screen. On it are papers stuck with words others have thrown at you. You're selfish. You're too sensitive. You're always the problem. Don't rip them down in anger. Instead, take half a step back and quietly ask, is this truly my handwriting? If not, trace the edge of that paper with your eyes. Exhale and peel it away. Place it into a symbolic box labeled, "Theirs, not mine." Do just one each day. By the seventh day, you may notice patches of bare wall emerging, blank spaces where logos that calm, clear inner voice can begin to write a new story. In daily life, reclaiming projection looks like this. At work, Ethan messages, "You always save the team. Can you finish tonight's pitch?" Before you would have typed, "Okay," and swallowed your resentment. But today you place your hand on your chest and reply, "I can't take this on tonight. I'll send my part by 10 a.m. tomorrow." No pathology of the team to explain, no excess apologies. Just a clean return of responsibility to where it belongs while keeping your promise to your own body. Or in a family, Aunt Linda jokes at dinner about your single life and the whole table laughs. Before you might have laughed along while dimming a piece of yourself. But today you offer a small smile. "I don't accept comments about my private life. I'll step out to the porch for a moment." You rise, drink some water, and look at the sky. No one is shamed yet. Your soul recognizes that at last an adult stands guard at the door. And yet when people begin reclaiming their projections, many fear they are becoming the bad one. That fear is the lingering shadow of the good persona. But as Jung reminds us, individuation demands we step beyond masks of goodness into the truth of wholeness. So I ask you, what projections are you still carrying that don't belong to you? And if you set one down today, how much freer would your inner wall become? When the two poles finally recognize each other, when you take back your projections and invite the animus to stand guard, a silent law of the psyche begins to move. In entheodromia, the return of what has been repressed. Don't be afraid of the word. It simply describes something profoundly human, the very energy that once overwhelmed you, when faced directly and placed in its right position, changes roles. Anger no longer explodes. It stands as a soldier at the temple gate. Desire no longer drags you in shame. It becomes a sacred vow. Empathy no longer floods without boundaries. It flows within a riverbed. This is not morality. This is the physics of the soul. As Jung would say, when opposites sit together, a higher order is born. Think of anger, the familiar fear of every empath. Before it came like a storm, too late, too wild, leaving you ashamed. Now anger shows up as a gentle warmth in your chest when a boundary is about to be crossed. Instead of a long speech, you utter one clean sentence. In a Zoom meeting, when the manager says, "It would be great if the team could finish one more presentation tonight," you breathe into your belly and calmly reply, "I can complete it by 10 a.m. tomorrow. I cannot take on more tonight." That half second of silence after, don't run from it. That silence is the metal of your words cooling into shape. It is the classroom where a new language is spoken. Respect. At home, when the message reads, "I need you right now," you write back, "I will call at 7 p.m. tomorrow." No needless apology, no attack. Just a brick placed on the bridge that you too will later cross, not a shaky bridge built in panic for others while you fall into the river. And desire, it too changes its name. Once every time you felt wanting rest, wanting silence, wanting touch, you quickly labeled it selfish. Now you learn to speak your wanting with the calm voice of the adult in the house. In the living room, you say, "Tonight I'd rather take a walk than watch TV." In bed, you whisper, "I want closeness, but let's begin with slow kisses and an embrace." It sounds simple, but behind it stands a revolution. Desire becomes commitment to listen to yourself, to negotiate honestly, and to take responsibility for what you ask. It begins on a perfectly ordinary morning. No fireworks, no tragedies, And that is precisely why it's unforgettable. You pour your coffee, open the window, and notice that the noise inside your head has grown quieter. Not because the world has softened, but because something within you has finally found its axis. From this point on, being an empath no longer means being an endless sponge. You have edges, a rhythm, a center. Jung would call this the first steps of individuation. The ego does not disappear. It simply returns to its rightful orbit around the self, that still point where vision stretches farther and the heart begins to think with its own wisdom. The first signs are subtle. You begin to differentiate faster. On a Monday morning when someone tosses you an urgent task, help the team meet this deadline, your body warms up like a yellow caution light. Before you would nod just to keep the peace. Now you smile and say, my part is A and B. C will need more resources or more time. Your words are not cold, but precise. And precision is how the heart protects the work of the soul. You realize you no longer carry everyone else's emotions. You don't patch the climate of the whole room. You let people own their own weather. Strangely enough, the room doesn't collapse, it learns a new rhythm. The second sign touches boundaries with calmness. You don't need to shout to be heard anymore. You speak briefly, clearly, and let the silence do the rest. On Wednesday night, someone texts, I need you right now. The old hand would reach for the phone instantly. The new hand rests on your chest and replies, I'll call you at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Your words land like a flat stone on water. No insult, no invasion. At Thanksgiving dinner, when an old joke reopens an old wound, you simply say, I don't accept comments about my body or my private life. Then you help yourself to more mashed potatoes. You don't need to win, you just need to keep the door. The third sign is that intuition now walks with verification. No more endless nights asking, maybe I'm just too sensitive. Instead, you write it down, event of feeling beneath C, and then you test yourself with small grounded actions. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about this journey is that it does not need fireworks to declare victory. It returns quietly in the smallest gestures, the way you place a cup on the table without rushing, the way you read a message without your heart contracting, the way you stand tall when speaking a single sentence, clear as a beam of light cutting across the room. Jung would smile gently and say, this is the sign that inner order has taken form. You no longer need to be a sponge absorbing the darkness of others to prove your worth. You become the keeper of the lamp, a flame that burns steadily without display, warm enough for you to sit beside and bright enough for someone lost to see the way home. Look back at the path you have walked from the day your too kind persona began to crack. Through the dark night of Negredo, when old structures collapsed like wet ash. To the raw conversations with the forbidden parts of yourself. And finally, the moment you withdrew your projections and invited the animus to stand guard at your threshold. Each small step repeated quietly reshaped the energy within you. Anger became protection. Desire became covenant. Empathy became compassion with boundaries. There was never a magic formula. Only warm patience, the kind that knows the soul does not bloom on deadlines but ripens like a season. And when the season arrives, you realize you are more ordinary than ever before, and precisely because of that radiant. I want to leave you with 3 simple images as pocket-sized reminders. The key, the candle, the lioness. The key is logos, a voice that is short, clear moments of opening and closing doors at the right time. The candle is presence moments when you mute the world to listen to the body's response. The lioness is protection, a tenderness with teeth refusing to let your heart be a testing ground for knives. If each day you touch these 3 symbols, life will quietly rearrange itself. Schedules less chaotic. Sleep less thin, relationships less clouded. Not because you have become perfect, but because you have returned to being someone with a center. From here on, the path does not erase darkness. It gives darkness meaning. Yes, there will still be days when you nod too quickly, nights when you open the door too late. But unlike before, you return faster. You know how to place a hand on your chest and whisper, I am here.